What myth is still widely circulated as truth? That you have to wait 24h before you can report a missing person. If someone is missing, go get help. The widespread knowledge of 24-hour waiting periods is a myth based in TV and movies, where the family spends precious time frantically searching without assistance. It is not true in most locales, and is virtually never required for missing juveniles or seniors with dementia. A missing person is closest to home, most likely still alive, and most likely still surrounded by clues and evidence within the first 24 hours. It is critically important that you engage the police as soon as your loved one is inaccessible or profoundly late. ABC News Link did a report on why the first 72 hours in a missing person case are critical. They emphasize that it is not necessary to wait 24 hours before filing a report. FindLaw.com link calls the waiting period a myth. There is no waiting period. Many shows and movies have publicized the 24 or 48-hour waiting period to report missing people, but that doesn't exist in real police offices. As soon as you know an adult or child is missing, report it to police. Child Find of America link calls this waiting period a myth. They advise contacting local police immediately, and those police departments that do require waiting periods do not require them for juveniles. If an HIV positive person has sex with another HIV positive person, they don't have to worry about protection. They do, because there are 140 different strains of the HIV/AIDS virus, and getting infected with another strain, especially a potentially deadlier one, could be dangerous. Also, pregnancy is still a very big risk for HIV positive women. If you are considering a sexual relationship, get tested and talk to your doctor about birth control. Just want to point out that women can be HIV positive while pregnant and not pass on HIV to their baby as long as they take the correct medications during pregnancy. They can even have a vaginal delivery if their viral loads are low at the time of the birth. This obviously doesn't address someone just not wanting to get pregnant, but lots of people also believe that you can't responsibly continue a pregnancy if you're HIV positive, and that's also false. Edit: I have never gotten an award before and now I got one for being helpful. Thank you, kind stranger. I'm happier about this than should be possible over fake internet awards. This is very true. I was fortunate enough to have been born HIV negative to an AIDS positive mother. This is one of the most upsetting things that I see in people who don't properly understand HIV/AIDS. They think that you are given a death sentence if you're born to someone with the disease. You're not. You do have to be very careful, but it's not immediate. Can we please work to educate and help eliminate the stigma around this disease? People in general, though the world was flat until Columbus sailed the ocean blue. No, the ancient world figured that out a long time before. People just thought that it wasn't possible to sail across the ocean to Asia because sailors would run out of food by then. While Columbus thought that wasn't the case because he thought Asia was bigger than contemporary estimates. He actually thought the diameter of Earth was much smaller than contemporary estimates. So, he was very wrong. The standard estimates were accurate, but he got lucky. Not even contemporary estimates. Eratosthenes had done a pretty good estimate in the 3rd century BCE. There was some uncertainty about the unit conversion, though. Eratosthenes measured it in stadia, but there were several different types of stadia used in different places. So by Columbus' time, people weren't sure which version he'd used. Spoiler: Columbus picked the wrong one. Everyone else picked the right one. Lemmings commit mass suicide. Perhaps the most influential and, for the lemmings involved, tragic presentation of the myth was the 1958 Disney film White Wilderness Link, which won an Academy Award for documentary feature link, and in which producers threw lemmings off a cliff to their deaths to fake footage of a mass suicide, as well as faked scenes of mass migration. 15 link. Humans are really bad at committing confirmation bias. Lemmings aren't running off of cliffs by themselves. Hurl them off, rather than reconsider that detail. The white on blue roundel in the BMW logo represents the white blades of a propeller against the blue sky, alluding to BMW's history as a manufacturer of aircraft engines. This myth was popularized in BMW's advertising for aircraft engines. and perpetuated by the movie Finding Forrester. In truth, the blue and white come from the Bavarian flag, presented as a circular coat of arms in reverse order, to avoid a trademark law prohibiting the use of symbols of state sovereignty in a commercial trademark. It was only in later marketing for aircraft engines they overlaid the logo over spinning propellers, as coincidentally it could be taken to look like a propeller against the sky. They made all sorts of engines for land vehicles as well. Same for Mitsubishi, which is claimed to represent the three blades of a plane's propeller. The name Mitsubishi is a combination of the Japanese words Mitsu meaning three and Hishi meaning water chestnut, a term used to describe the diamond shape. The logo is a combination of the Yamamochi family crest, which is three leaves in a pinwheel formation, and the Iwasaki family crest, which is three diamonds stacked on top of each other. Link actual intended image here link. I was adamantly told by some seniors at work not to drink the water that boiled twice because it cooks the oxygen out of it. What is with seniors and water that's been boiled twice? My grandmother used to say that it would make the water radioactive. I still can't wrap my head around the fact that a woman that had been a chemist her entire working life believed this, though I've heard others who grew up in the Soviet Union, like my grandmother, echo this, so perhaps it's some silly propaganda that stuck. I would love it if it turned out that it started as propaganda to reduce power consumption by the populace. That you can reduce fat from a particular body part. I always laugh at those electric belly jigglers. I got one just to cry and watch my fat jiggle. Bulls hate red. They are actually colorblind and are reacting to the movement of the cloth and the asshole behind it. You also gotta keep in mind those bulls are poorly treated and usually given some kind of stimulants. Bulls on our ranch are actually quite friendly as long as it's not breeding season. That shaving makes your beard grow better. When I was a teenager, a lot of people told me that shaving would make my beard grow faster. Well, I didn't want to shave any more than I absolutely had to, so I often went weeks at a time without shaving. It wasn't the best look for me. The idea was that a teenager who'd keep patchy growth on would really want good facial hair. So the whole shave it to make it more prominent was just a clever way for adults to convince teenagers to keep that dirt stash off. I thought of the entire concept of facial hair as a lot of work I didn't want to deal with, so shave more often and it'll grow back faster made me never want to shave at all. I was kinda lazy back then. That the US spent over $1 million in 2 years to develop a pen that could work in space, whereas the Soviets decided to just use a pencil. In the early days, both used pencils, but since pencils are made out of graphite, and graphite is conductive, snapped graphite particles are dangerous in a pressurized space capsule. To put it lightly, Fisher, the owner of the pen company, spent his own money to develop a pressurized ballpoint pen, and cost only about $3.00 per pen. Edit: I was wrong on the price. The pens first cost about $6 per pen for NASA. Edit: 2 did some digging on the grease pens. Apparently the thought was that they wouldn't be durable enough on paper, and the paper shroud of the grease pen would still need to be disposed of, and thought it might be a problem. My understanding is that the pencils were grease pencils, different, safer than regular pencils, but still somewhat dangerous and annoying to use. That might have been later. I know the first pencils they used were mechanical pencils with graphite. During the first NASA missions the astronauts used pencils. For Project Gemini, for example, NASA ordered mechanical pencils in 1965 from Tycom Engineering Manufacturing, Incorporated, in Houston. The fixed price contract purchased 34 units at a total cost of $43.82.50 or $128.89 per unit. That created something of a controversy at the time, as many people believed it was a frivolous expense. NASA backtracked immediately and equipped the astronauts with less costly items. Link. Edit: I also misremembered. It was $6 a pen. Media reports indicate that approximately 400 pens were purchased from Fisher at $6 per unit for Project Apollo. The myth: you can tell if a snake is venomous or not by the shape of its pupil slit for venomous, round for non-venomous. The truth: pupil shape has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not a snake has venom. An If you're close enough to get a good look at a snake's pupils, you're probably close enough to get bit. The advice: if you cannot, from a safe distance, immediately identify a snake beyond a reasonable doubt. Assume it's dangerous and behave accordingly. Keep your distance. Stay out of its direct path and keep your eyes on it until one or the other of you leaves the area. Urine neutralizes jellyfish stings. Use Vinegar instead. That stuff will actually save you. At least long enough for an ambulance to arrive. Can confirm that Vinegar helps a lot. Also warm salt water as well. Both helped a lot when I got stung. Who had Vinegar at the beach? The lifeguards. In an area with deadly varieties of jellyfish. Okay, I'll say it, Australia, you would frequently find bottles of Vinegar tied up to posts and lifeguard towers on the beach. EDT. Since this blow up, and thanks for the awards. This is mostly a thing in North Australia with the prevalence of box jellyfish and irukandji. I've seen the same thing in parts of Southeast Asia. Box jellyfish are an issue where I live, but they are mostly seasonal. So noon swims in the ocean between October and May. Most don't swim in the ocean at all. That Marilyn Manson removed 2 of his ribs to blow himself. I will never understand how this one traveled around the world before widespread use of the internet for stuff like this. Some of the other ones, sure, they were stuff that sounded medical or scientific, were circulated by papers or magazines. But this one somehow circulated in places that may have never even known who Marilyn Manson was. It's weird how I heard this in Malaysia 20 years ago. That goldfish have a 6-second memory. I mean, it's still not great. I think like a couple months. But still, get your fish a bigger damn tank. Edit. Thank you for the awards and updates. Very kind of you. People have actually taught their goldfish to do tricks like swimming through a hoop. They are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. And yes, they need bigger tanks. I got one from a fair one time and put it in my grandma's koi pond. It got huge. Edit. Thank you for the award. It is my first one, so I was really surprised. Gum takes 7 years to digest. No, that's if you eat people. People take 7 years to digest. No, gum takes 7 people to digest. Sorry, my bad. That actually does sound right. Daddy long legs are actually the most poisonous spiders in the world, but don't have long enough fangs to bite you. Undercover police have to tell you they are policemen when you ask them. Breaking Bad has a great scene where an undercover cop tricks a guy into selling him drugs using this myth. Catherine the Great died after attempting to have sex with a horse. This myth was started by the French, and then they ask why everyone believes Napoleon was a tiny man. Scientists don't know how bees fly. Scientists discover bees aren't airplanes or birds. That we only use 10% of our brain. Edit. Thanks for the awards, all my first and the upvotes. Subtract 10 from how many I have, and that's the most I've ever gotten on a comment. My cousin had a roommate who thought this and tried to use 100% of his brain to run through a wall. Guess some people do use 10% of their brain. Something about touching baby birds and their parents abandoning them due to the smell of human touch. Edit. After reading through several replies, perhaps there is some truth to this, based on the animal. One time my son came home smelling like a bird, and I told him to get the heck out and never come back. Nobody wants a chicken ducker for a son. That Mr. Rogers was a sniper and or had tattoos covering his arms. Both untrue. Fred Rogers lived a pretty mundane life and dedicated considerable time to creating television programming that didn't rot kids' brains. Your blood is blue and not oxygenated. Edit. Thank you all for my first awards. I never thought such a simple answer could have such an impact. People believe in the whole alpha and beta wolves thing. It's not true. The leaders of the pack are the parents. In natural wolf packs, the alpha male or female are merely the breeding animals, the parents of the pack, and dominance contests with other wolves are rare, if they exist at all. Knuckle cracking doesn't lead to arthritis. It's just an old wives' tale people use in place of simply telling you it's annoying them. Crack away. The singer Syra is a man. She just popped out her 3rd kid. This is still circulating. That the tongue has different regions for salty, sweet, bitter and sour. Holding B down increases your chances of catching a Pokemon. Organic crops don't use pesticides or herbicides. A lot of people still believe a woman sued McDonald's because her coffee was hot. In reality, the woman had third-degree burns throughout her pelvic area and only asked that her medical bills be paid. That you can tell if someone is a virgin by looking at their hymen to see if it is intact. That historical armor was useless, or just something you wore so you had a slight chance to turn a death blow into merely a serious injury. Shows and movies still perpetuate this. Game of Thrones has acclaimed sword fights where guys casually shove swords through dudes in plate armor. Impossible. Metal is not cardboard. Even the most basic iron or bronze chainmail armor will be barely scratched by a slash from the sharpest katana. Well-made plate armor is impervious to all damage short of a blow from a specialized armor-piercing weapon lance, poleaxe, etc. Even the earliest guns couldn't penetrate plate armor. Armor was incredibly expensive. Common people couldn't afford it, so made do without or, if lucky, with fabric armors that were still very effective protection. A suit of custom-made plate would have cost tonight the equivalent of modern high-end luxury car. Why would people pay that much for something useless? Armor was very useful. That's why weapons continued to advance over the centuries, and why armor did as well. It was an arms race. Bonus: the Dark Ages being a time of post-Roman decline is a myth. We weren't set back 1,000 years by the fall of Rome. Technology continued to advance throughout the following centuries. Some things quite astonishingly so. Debated. That MSG is very bad for health and anything with it is seen as unhealthy. That e-waste recycling is good for the environment. Much of it gets shipped overseas to be burned or dissolved in chemicals to extract the precious metals. The real way to help is to buy less. That washing chicken gets rid of bacteria. No. Cooking chicken gets rid of bacteria, given that you do it well. Washing chicken, on the other hand, can contaminate your whole kitchen with salmonella. That whole you eat 7 spiders a year myth. It was created by some lady in the late 90s or early 2000s to prove that ridiculous things can be found on the internet, spread like wildfire, and believed by many. Edit: wow, this blew up. Thank you to all who clarified that it was Lisa Holt. A troll edit too maybe. And the fact that this is older than the internet. Myths are weird.